Welcome to Psychic Girls Next Door. We are your hosts, Lili
and Shannon Miller. This podcast is for all spirituality enthusiasts and psychics next door to share tools, experiences, and spiritual practices that align with your highest vibrational self.
Well, in this episode, we will be talking about how you can protect your energy. And we're also going to share our experiences discerning what is our energy and what is other people's energy. Oof.
What a doozy of an episode.
Oh my goodness.
This is going to be a good one, y'all. So listen up.
Yeah. So, open up your ears. Just give yourself permission to receive the information, because I know it's a frequently asked question. How do I know when it's my energy? When do I know when it's not? That's a very valid question.
Yeah. I would say there's a few ways to tell, at least like from my own personal experience. And I've been dealing with this a lot lately of when you feel like you have excess like buzzing in your body. That's one thing that I can feel like when I feel like, because most of the time I feel pretty calm and grounded, and it's just been like constant chit chat in my, auditorial zone, or like, feeling like there's just tons of information floating around my head. Like any type of anxiety, it shows up for me as anxiety. Like it causes like me to have extra anxiety in my body. Like, oh, there's all this extra chatter, there's extra noise in my like energetic field. It feels like a crowded room. And it also feels like it's just like unfamiliar. Cause for me, when it's just me and my energy, I know how I feel. I know that I'm like, for the most part, calm. I might have some like fun, wacky ideas, but other than that, like it doesn't feel as crowded. It feels like I have space and I can just chill. That's how I discern when I physically feel like there's other people's information in my space. But how do you feel, Lili?
It's challenging. And I think even for us as psychics, we do have the privilege that we can feel energy or see energy. But I say for people that are not there yet with accessing their energetic information in that way. As we grow up, we are bombarded with other people's energies. Since I think you're in your mom's womb, you already like merged with your mother's information, and you carry other people's information in your body. I don't know, I can only speak for myself. Growing up, I think it has also to do with my people-pleasing former tendencies, where, other people's opinions would be all over my space. I was always concerned about what others would think, and I would allow other people's judgment, other people's opinions to kind of dictate my own life in a way. So I think that it has to do with that, and not being really aware of my own energy. I just felt that I don't want to say, like, I had like a lot of victim energy too. Mm-hmm. So it was very hard to just discern what was my information and my energy and what was other people's, because it all kind of became like merged, and it was all entangled. So it was like, when you see like this power lines, they're all like entangled. It was kind of like that. So it was the process of just going to healing and becoming more aware of my own energy, it was just untangling all of other people's information and my own, because we are bombarded every day. So much information, so much energy not only from the media, but like people that you work with, people that you have relationships, people that you live with. So it's constantly other people's energy that's going to be thrown at your space at some point and at some level. But then again, it's always like, well, how much do you allow it in your space and to stay in your energetic space too?
Yeah, there could be like a belief that you have to hold on to other people's information or merge with them in some way, or like you can't survive without other people's information in your space. It could be related to any type of like information that you or belief that you have to like carry it on.
Yeah. Well, for some people, it's also an identity.
Yeah.
Sort of like it becomes their identity just to take on other people's energy. And therefore you become that energy too. Or say like if you're like in a group of friends and you just kind of take all their information and energy because you want to belong.
Yeah. Yeah. You can even apply that to work too.
To work, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like
or family, right?
dynamics, anywhere there's like more than one person involved, and even in a relationship, like, you know, in the past, I've seen people get lost in their relationships, or the idea of like losing yourself to a romantic partner. Like, you know, if you have friends who have taken on the hobbies and interests of their new partner, that you're like, oh, I didn't know you liked, you know, skee ball, you know, or something like really niche or like out there that you're like, like I didn't realize they were such a fan of X, Y, and Z, or that they had that hobby too. And in reality, as soon as that relation goes away, that those hobbies go away, the interest in those hobbies go away. And it's kind of interesting to see like that different people can influence different sides of one another as well. And if you don't have the ability to identify like what your information is versus someone else's, it can be very easy to blend and merge and create like new pockets of information that you share with, and like almost like coexisting in that space together.
Yes, absolutely. It becomes habitual too.
Yeah.
Because if every day you are in this environment, let's say like it's very chaotic, or there's a lot of confusion, or, you know, can be whatever it is, it just becomes the norm, you know, how your daily life goes on. It's always in that energy. So you kind of like already expect that. So you think it's kind of normal. So therefore, because whatever, also I think the environment plays a big part on the energy that you take it in and the energy that you also take it out to. Because if you hold that energy, especially if you are an empath or you're more like energy sensitive, you are going to take that in, you know, and therefore you might spill that out to others too, because, you know, it becomes kind of like part of you too. I think that in my case, one of the biggest things to discern my energy is to get to know myself. The more I got to know myself and what triggers me.
Yeah.
What, you know, how I react to things. And the more I became aware of that, the more I was like, oh yes, this is me and this is not me.
Right.
You know, I could feel that. So that was one of the biggest, I think one of the first steps for me was just like recognizing, how did my energy look like? And as you mentioned, like, how did it feel in my body? And this feels kind of weird. That doesn't belong to me. I don't know if I ever share with you, I have this story that energetically speaking, I just took someone else's energy, like literally, to the point where, so I was having a conversation with this person, and I'm not going to mention names or anything, right? So I was having and I had like, it was like a 5-minute conversation. Hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And I moved on, and I knew that this person, she was going through like, a lot of depression, was taking medication for that, was going through a really hard time. And this person also was having some issues with her skin.
Oh.
And so I had this, the small chat with this person. Then I kind of, went back into my house, my room, and I started feeling so awful. I've never felt this before. Like, I'm usually, pretty good, pretty okay, as I move along my day and my life. But I started feeling awful in a way that was just like almost that I was carrying like a block in my chest, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I started feeling really awful, just awful about myself. This is strange. Kind of like, moved on with my day. And then I went to sleep and I had a dream that I saw this person. So I saw someone that is very connected to this person.
Yeah.
In the dream, and we were talking, but then I looked in the mirror. It was me, but I had the same skin issues that this person has, she's been experiencing or was experiencing it. And I'm like, and I looked and I knew, I was like, okay, I just picked up her energy.
Yeah.
So my dream later in the day just kind of confirmed that. So I meditated on that too, just to kind of like, what happened? So we, as we talk a lot about chakras, and for me, I had my second chakra. So the second chakra is located kind of around where your belly button is, and it's all about your body communication and your clairsentience. So clairsentience is when you feel the emotions of others. So if your second chakra is wide open, it's kind of like opening the door of your house, so everybody comes in.
Screen doors.
Yes. No, it's just everybody, every single living thing just comes in. And I noticed that my second chakra was really open, so I just took it all her energy in, and I probably was in many ways trying to empathize with her issue. Took it in. And literally, physically, I embody that. So I think it's important just to recognize, say, if you're hanging out with someone, how does this dynamic make you feel afterwards? The conversation, does it make you feel depleted?
Ooh.
Does it make you feel joy? Do you feel exhausted and tired? Do you feel cranky afterwards? So I think it's important just to notice that, because that probably means that if you notice a shift in your mood or your energy, you're probably taking the person's energy. So for me, I know it was a very extreme case of taking someone's energy and then feeling in my body, but it could be a little bit more subtle too.
Yeah.
So it's a good way of also discerning.
No, that's a great way of discerning. So I think when we're able to identify what information is ours versus somebody else's, it can be a really powerful next step of recognizing, one, when you are letting in other people's information, what are you doing in that moment? Whether it's fawning to, people please, or be the easy person in the room to get along with, or setting your own needs aside. And a lot of this information, and I speak from experience of having people-pleasing tendencies, especially in the workplace, and just being the go with the flow, kind of floating around, trying to stay grounded, and then also trying to be fluid is a very challenging thing to do. So being able to, when you are very fluid at work, sometimes you get caught in somebody else's wave, a tidal wave of emotions or expectations or, resistance. A lot of resistance has been coming up in my space. And I know it's not really my own resistance, because for me, I've done a lot of work to clean out the resistance I have, especially when I am in a workplace setting. resistance to change, resistance to new people, resistance to, other people's information, whatever it is. And lately I've been when you were talking about recognizing somebody else's information in your space or energy, I was like, oh, mine is showing up in the form of resistance. And because I've done the work of figuring out how to recognize my own resistance and realizing like I do have a little bit of resistance to chaotic, like tidal wave of like people overreacting about certain things. And then that triggers me to go into fix it mode and try to immediately fix things that I'm not really responsible for fixing. So when you do catch yourself and you understand, like, this is my information versus somebody else's, like, what is the category that it falls into? And you don't have to categorize it, but for me, I like to categorize things so that I can understand and like further unpack it. And so the category that's just lately been popping up is just resistance overall, like resistance to, I think change. Like there's been a lot of change lately.
And why do you feel like there's resistance to all these things?
It feels like the energy of resistance feels like forced. Like it feels like some type of force. Like it's not flow. It's like going against the natural flow state. And there's been some changes at work lately that have been causing people to feel uncomfortable. And I think when that discomfort, when you look at it further, like they're uncomfortable because one, it's either a change that they didn't come up with on their own. It didn't come from their own information. It came from somebody else's. And then if that doesn't align with what their path is or like their idea of what they want to do at work, then I think that's where the resistance comes in. And then conflict gets created from that resistance. And so when you're in those moments, and I feel like I'm talking to myself right now of how to deal with that and unpack that, it helps to remove yourself. And for me, I want to I'm talking about energetically or physically, taking a walk, like leaving that environment, be like, oh, I got to step out. I got to make a phone call. Even if you don't have to make a phone call or like, oh, my daughter's calling me or my wife's calling, whatever it is, like come up with an excuse to remove yourself from that environment.
So you can protect your energy.
Yes. So that you can protect your energy. And because when I get very caught up in those, and my role is very into like being solutions oriented, I kind of have to be that way. And I default to that mode because for me, there's information in my space of like, oh, you don't want to be the problem. Oh, and so as soon as you're the problem, then there's a whole other slew of information that comes with that. And so for me, I've been operating from this place of like, oh, I only want to be the solution. I'm the solutions gal. I'm solution oriented. And because I've taken on that identity and that information, whether it's my own or somebody else's, I've been put in that box of having to figure it out, not only for myself, but for the other people around me, specifically in the workplace. And so I love being solutions oriented. Who doesn't love a solution, right? Like,
I would love to have someone like that in my life.
Right.
You're like, hi, I have an issue.
Yeah.
Can you find a solution for me? That'd be fabulous.
Yeah. But when it becomes like so overbearing, because a lot of this stuff that I feel like I have to be a solutions oriented person for, they're not even my own problems.
Yeah, well, it becomes heavy.
Heavy energy, dense energy.
Yeah, you just become like, it's all this responsibility and pressure that you put in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for me, it brings a word that has become so popular lately. It's boundaries.
Yes.
I didn't learn about boundaries until maybe, I want to say a few years ago when I started this meditation training. And, there's a whole class that we learn about boundaries, that was the first time that I've ever heard about it. I had no clue what boundaries were. My whole life, I had no boundaries. And I realized that. So therefore, of course, everyone else's information was in my space. I was making decisions based on other people's information and energy. And were they great? No, not at all, because it was on my own.
Yeah.
So for me, boundaries was life changing. I can say no to things. Oh my God, without feeling guilty and wanting to preserve my energy. And for me, that was just such a game changer, just to be able to say what I needed. Okay, I need silence. I need peace. Just being able to say that, for me, it just changed my life. And being able to say no.
Oh, yeah. That's been my recent challenge.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to say no?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's challenging, and it wasn't an easy process for me neither. In the beginning, I feel very guilty. Guilty, and I had shame. We did unpack shame. So if you want to listen to our late past episode, we do unpack the energy of shame. But I went through all of that, and you're gonna feel resistance.
Yeah.
As you're talking about, you're gonna feel resistance to that because you've operated in such a way that you have no boundaries. You're always the go-getter. You always the solution-oriented person. You're always the to-go person. But at some point, you have to think about it. My gosh, my energy is everywhere, but with myself. Where is my energy? It's scattered.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's very hard to have this inner peace or inner calmness if your energy is not even with you.
Yeah.
So boundaries is key. I think for anyone that wants to protect their energy, it's important to set boundaries. And I think we might already mention about boundaries in some of our past episodes, that you don't have to shut down everyone else around you. It's not that what we mean that you have put up those very tall walls. It's not an electric fence either.
Yeah.
You just want to put up a gate.
Oh, that's a good way.
Just put a little gate. Okay, you come in, you don't come in. You're allowed, you're not allowed.
Yeah.
Open, shut. So you just you're more selective. That's kind of how it is. You're more selective about what you let it in, but you also want to let it out.
Yeah.
Things that are no longer serving you.
True. Yeah.
Let it out too. So you can create space for things that do serve you. But it's in the beginning, it's challenging.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, sometimes I kind of go back and forth with my boundaries.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. It's not always going to be perfect, but I think it's only by practicing it.
Yeah.
You have to practice. The more you do it, the more you're going to feel confident about setting those boundaries. But you have to also ask yourself do I have boundaries within myself? Settling boundaries within you.
Yeah.
Creating that space where you make yourself a priority.
As someone who never really makes themselves a priority, that's a really great thing for me to hear, because I would love to just set time to do self-care, whatever that means, whether it's going on a walk or going swimming or just taking movement in some way, changing up my routine, reading, doing whatever it is that I feel brings me joy and brings me sanity. And it's so easy to not hold that time for yourself. To be oh, well, someone else needs me to do something for them, or, oh, gotta be here, gotta show up for other people, or, oh, sure, I can change my schedule around for that person. Because that's the default mode that I've been operating in. But it's really good to hear that you do need to honor yourself first. And it's the idea of filling up your own cup before you can pour into others. If you're not even pouring into your own cup, how can you pour into somebody else's?
So. Well, you're giving all your energy, but you're not getting that energy back.
Right.
So it's kind of like the car that is always running on an empty tank. And you can kind of run and drive for a little while, but at some point the car is going to break down.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And that, and that has happened to me in the past. But just understanding also that it's a process, so it's not going to happen overnight, for whoever is listening to this, just knowing that, it's not something that immediately happens, but I think it's just like small steps, just honoring what do you need right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I need some quiet time and I'm going to honor that.
Yeah.
And that means maybe you have to turn off your phone.
Yeah.
For like an hour.
8 days.
Yeah, or 8 days, or go move into the forest and to a cave and never talk to anyone.
Fall off the grid.
Move to another country.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
Get a new identity.
Yeah, exactly. Just a little more dramatic, but but you can do like small steps to do that, just to kind of honor yourself. I think the more you honor yourself, you show others how to honor that too. But it's not going to come from others. That's basically, it boils down to that. It all comes from you because you set the tone for all these changes to happen. But another way that I also, I like to give visuals for people to how to protect your energy. When we went through our meditation and clairvoyant training, we learned also about our energetic space, which is our aura, right? So aura it is like literally the energetic space around you, and we all have it. So it's literally, you can walk into places and situations and you can literally visualize your aura around you, like kind of this egg-shaped, sort of shield around you. So kind of like visualizing that, kind of protecting you if you are maybe going to like a crowded space, or maybe you walk into a conversation. So that's another way of kind of energetically visualizing, protecting your energy.
Yeah, and I like to think of it as like the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I can put it on and just feel totally in my zone, and like I was actually at a meeting in Washington, D.C. at this like club, and I was working in the basement, and it wasn't like the basement, it was just like the downstairs floor. Technically it was the basement, but it was nice. And somebody apparently they had come looking for me, and I was like literally right by the front door, and I was like, oh, I must have cloaked myself. You
became invisible.
I became invisible, and because I was protecting my own energy so much. And even when you feel like you don't have boundaries, or you feel like your boundaries are super malleable, it does help to have these tools in place. And, it could be like starting a new habit, and changing your habits can be challenging. But once you have these tools in place that help you protect your own energy, it can be a magnificent shift that you have been wanting your entire life, a few months, whatever your time frame is. But being able to protect yourself energetically is something that is going to be able to last you a lifetime.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have tools and techniques to facilitate, protecting your energy, and be more discerning about it too, because we live in a time and space where we are constantly bombarded with all sorts of energy, all sorts of other people's information. So again, if you carry all that in your space, it becomes very cluttered. So it's important to always, we do physical declutters. So it's important to do energetic declutter too. Just really become discerning what's yours, what's not mine, declutter, recycle that energy, give it back. Also notice what is always in your mind.
Yeah. What's the track that's playing in your mind?
What is it? Is it like a pastime argument maybe? Is it some relationship? So notice that too, because that means that their information, that person or the situation's energy, it's still in your space. So it's good to unpack that.
It's really good to unpack that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you all feel encouraged to just kind of look at that. Just get curious.
Get curious. Give yourself permission to look at it in the first place, because you might have resistance to even recognizing that other people's information is in your space and it may not be your own. And then it can feel like a shock to the system of when you do recognize that it's kind of like someone's been leeching their energy onto you, or whether they're grounding through you, influencing you in some way, and you may not even realize, don't go into pictures of like feeling like a victim. Just be able to give yourself permission to recognize it, and then make steps towards shifting it out and protecting your own information and your own energy from being, leached onto or infiltrated.
Yeah. Yeah. So be gentle with yourself, and we'd love to know, how do you set boundaries? And if you have any tips and tricks, please feel free to share with us. But thank you so much for joining us and being part of this community. And we look forward to our next episode.
Thank you so much from the Psychic Girls Next Door.